What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more J-drama score, and we're going to listen to another piece from the Ouroboros soundtrack from 2015. It's by Kimura Hideakira, who not only did this score, but also the score for Undercover Agent Tokagi, which I've also been going through the soundtrack for. This is a show, I won't give the full explanation because I know I've talked about it in a number of previous reactions to the score, but it's a little relevant just to give a quick refresher or primer here. Because the main two characters, one is a great detective, even though he's very young. Another is a Yakuza, rising boss, again, very young but very successful. And it turns out they're still in contact. They were friends as kids at an orphanage. And the woman who ran the orphanage, this young teacher who was very sweet and kind to them and helped them become friends in the first place, she gets murdered as part of this, it turns out, crazy, elaborate plot by people inside the National Police and so on. But ultimately, when you find out what happened, it's a real Shakespearean tragedy, revenge kind of story. But throughout the show, you get a sense of who this woman was who ran the orphanage, because they keep flashing back when the two main characters are talking. Again, often behind the scenes because they don't want people to know they have a direct connection. But yeah, they'll flash back to visuals and interactions with this teacher back when they were kids at the orphanage. And again, she's very sweet and very kind, and this track called In Love plays. And I think it's called In Love because there's, they don't make a big deal of it, but both boys, I think, have this crush on this teacher because she's very pretty, and again, she's very kind to them and, takes care of them and is this really sweet figure in their life, whereas before that they were orphans and kind of kicked around the system and so on. So they're really sweet on her, and again, that's partly why they basically swear their lives to revenge when she's killed. So when they flash back to sequences of this teacher, this track In Love plays. Now there's two versions of it. This is the normal version. There's also a piano version, though to be fair, the normal version also includes piano, but its main melody is carried by, I think it's a guitar. It's a plucked string for sure. Maybe it's a Japanese traditional instrument. Maybe it's a plucked violin, perhaps. Maybe a harp. But I think it's just an acoustic guitar, or at least a guitar played in that way rather than strummed. In any case, we'll also listen to the piano version. But I did want to start with the normal version, so let's get it. This is Kimura Hideakira and the soundtrack for Ouroboros from 2015, and the track is called In Love. beautiful piece. The middle section of that, it's one of those things where you hear bits of score in a show, and oftentimes it's not the full piece. It's, you know, half of it, or like a middle and really prominent section of it, or maybe you'll hear the last minute of it in another episode, like later in the show. But hearing that full thing, there were a couple moments in the middle where it's like, wow, this part isn't as familiar as the opening, or indeed as the end was. Because obviously there's some scenes where maybe you hear the first minute and a half or so, and then it cuts and, you know, it goes to a different track, or, you know, there's no music, it's a more dialogue-based scene or whatever. So yeah, there were a couple moments there that were really pleasing and I wasn't remembering. So yeah, top tune, again, Kimura Hideakira's compositions on this and Undercover Agent Tokagi I've really come to enjoy. So yeah, as I said, we'll come back for the piano version, which again, it's very similar, but that main melody is not carried by either that pluck, which I think that was a guitar, right? I think it was a guitar, or the strings or the woodwinds as it is here, but it's entirely piano based. So or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like a concerto, maybe it just switches more primarily to the piano, but there is some accompaniment. I don't quite remember. I did remember, though, that there's another version of that, because there's a couple scenes where that same melody plays, but it starts on the piano. So, yeah, ultimately, we'll come back for that one. Do let me know what you think of this. I'll see you next time. Peace.